Our top story comes from Fond du Lac. A long-awaited trial got underway today.
The defendant is charged with the murder of Berit Beck more than a quarter century ago, and his trial is expected to take weeks. On this first day, though, jurors heard the emotional testimony of a father. Jacob Kittelstead joins us live from Fond du Lac. Jacob.
Yeah, the suspect, 62-year-old Dennis Brantner, did not speak today, but we heard much from his defense team casting doubt on the story laid out by prosecutors. But for the victim's family, they say it's all bringing back sad memories to April 17, 1990, the last day any of them saw their relative.
Oh, don't worry, Dad. All the people up north are good.
Last words remembered by a father, spoken by 18-year-old Berit Beck of Sturtevant, a young woman taking the family van to Appleton for job training. Instead, she went missing after making a purchase in Fond du Lac.
And then she disappeared.
Prosecutors say her body would be found by a farmer a month later in a ditch. The van was recovered with fingerprints on items only now identified as those of Dennis Brantner.
24 years later, the Sheriff's Department took a fresh look at the case. He says, I was never there. I wasn't there. He also says, I'm so effing sorry.
Prosecutors say, why would he show remorse if he wasn't there? The defense has an answer.
Suggesting to him that, well, maybe you just dumped the body. Maybe that's what you did. And he says, no, I don't know. No, I don't know. And that's when the statement at the very end where he says, if I did, I'm so sorry. Because he's been beat down. You will hear it.
Brantner's attorney argues there's no evidence connecting his client to the crime because he believes the fingerprints have been misidentified. And a huge twist in the investigation, all of the major pieces of 25-year-old evidence has gone missing from the state crime lab.
You're going to hear about that. That jacket, missing, gone. You've heard about a Burger King cup where they say Mr. Brantner's prints are on that. Where's that? Gone.
Meaning fingerprints cannot be reanalyzed, placing a lot of trust on a 25-year-old investigation. And more than 100 people have been placed on the potential witness list. The case could go as long as 3 weeks. Reporting in Fond du Lac, Jacob Kittelstead, CBS 58 News.
New tonight, the case against Dennis Brantner, the man charged with the murder of Berit Beck more than 25 years ago, is in the hands of a jury. Both sides making their closing arguments today. And CBS 58's Jacob Kittelstead joins us live from Fond du Lac, where at last word, the jurors were still at it. Jacob?
Yeah, jurors are now in hour 5 of deliberations, and in fact, they've just returned back into the courtroom to review some audio and video clips that were presented previously during the trial. Now, the judge may allow these jurors to break for the evening and return home tomorrow morning to deliver their verdict once they arrive at that. And that's okay for both sides in this case because they all feel that there's a lot of information that needs to be gone over.
If I did, I'm sorry. I did. You're a human being.
Prosecutors liken it to a confession. This video of Dennis Brantner is one of the last pieces of evidence represented in closing arguments by the Fond du Lac District Attorney. It's a March 2014 interview with authorities about Brantner's alleged killing of 18-year-old Berit Beck, who went missing in 1990 on her way to a job interview in Appleton.
The sheer terror she must have been experiencing at the hands of Dennis Brantner, someone she had never met, twice her age.
The main evidence for the prosecution, 9 fingerprints on items in Beck's vehicle. Other evidence, however, has been lost by the state since the original follow-up. The defense says that mishandling of key evidence is reason enough for doubt.
They're still investigating. As Detective Lamont said, the investigation continues. Oh, does it? After you charge somebody with first-degree intentional homicide, you still investigate.
You can't look at each piece of evidence by itself. You have to look at everything together. What Mr. Howell wants you to do is isolate each piece of evidence and look at it individually.
The jury has heard more than 2 weeks of testimony from more than 40 people during the trial, and now the jury has to answer the question police posed to Brantner a little more than 2 years ago.
I feel sick about this right now. We're looking at all. I know what you do, but what do you think you would feel if you were a juror? I don't know. I had never been in that situation.
And court officials say that they will be making a decision about what will happen this evening coming up in the next few hours. And the judge is open to go either way, staying late into the evening or breaking for the night. As we said earlier, we'll be staying on this case whether or not it ends this evening or tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for more information on that on CBS 58. For now, live in Fond du Lac, Jacob Kittelstad, CBS 58 News.
Jacob, thank you.
Now to the intrigue in a local courtroom. After a day and a half of deliberating, a Fond du Lac jury still hasn't reached a verdict in the case of Dennis Brantner.
Brantner is charged with first-degree intentional homicide for the death of 18-year-old Berit Beck. Jacob Kittelstad joins us live from the Fond du Lac County Courthouse as the jury has just left for the day. Jacob?
Yeah, all of this started with a note to the judge saying that they were having difficulty making that decision. Now, no one's calling this a hung jury just yet. The case is still going on, and the judge is just telling the jury to take some more time with their discussion. Now, these latest developments in the case started just after 2 p.m. with Judge Gary Sharp receiving a note from jurors reading, quote, "We cannot agree to guilty or not guilty," end quote. That was, and then less than 20 minutes later, however, the jury sent another note asking to again listen to an audio interview between Brantner and authorities. Now, that was an indication that the jury is still working on their decision, even though some disagreements may exist. And as far as how to instruct the jury moving forward, the Fond du Lac County District Attorney and the defense team have differing opinions. The defense team here feature from behind.
But the overall tone of the instruction, I think, is fairly clearly targeted to people who are in the minority, and is coercive in the sense that it's targeting those people to change their vote and create a consensus.
And Judge Sharp says that that is not intention of the instructions that he gave the jury. He feels that they understand their role in this. And the latest development out of the courtroom, around 4:30, they sent another note to the judge asking to go home for the day. The judge did allow that. All those jurors are expected to be back in the courtroom tomorrow at 8:30. Reporting live from Fond du Lac, Jacob Kittelstad, CBS 58 News.
Jacob, thank you. High drama in a Fond du Lac courtroom this morning as a judge declares a hung jury in the trial of 62-year-old Dennis Brantner, the man charged with the 1990 murder of Berit Beck. So what happens next? Jacob Kittelstad has the latest from Fond du Lac.
Frustration. That's the main word used to describe this case on both sides after Judge Gary Sharp dismisses the jury after 3 days of unsuccessful deliberations.
State of Wisconsin versus Dennis Brantner.
The morning started with bad news from the bailiff.
One of the jurors had a health issue and had gone to the emergency room last night.
Concerning news interrupted by a waving hand at the front of the courtroom, unceremoniously received by Judge Gary Sharp.
I have received a new correspondence from the jury signed by the foreperson saying we cannot agree on guilty or not guilty.
We ask for privacy for the family as they gather their thoughts and seek the Lord as they move forward with the next step. Thank you.
Pastor Dan Miller reads a statement from the Beck family moments after Judge Sharp dismissed this hung jury. Fond du Lac County District Attorney Eric Toney repeated this message for most of his questions.
Well, I think the jury spent a lot of time. They worked hard. From my perspective, I could see the emotion on many of their faces, and we appreciate the service that the jury did.
And I don't fault them for not being able to reach a decision. That's a courageous act in and of itself.
Defense attorney Craig Powell says Brantner will remain in jail on a $500,000 bond, but he does say that there is some hope in this situation.
What they presented wasn't good enough to convict Mr. Brantner. They couldn't convict 12 people that he was guilty of this crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Couldn't do it. If it's tried again, the next jury can see, I think he'll walk away, as he should.
The Beck family, however, is focusing on the past, the death of their relative, 18-year-old Berit Beck.
Yeah, their faith has been outstanding through this. I think the attitude that they've demonstrated has been incredible as they trust in the Lord and seek Him. It's been amazing to watch.
So what will happen next? Well, Judge Sharp will contact both the district attorney and Brantner's representation to figure out where to go from here. One option on the table could be an entirely new trial. Reporting in Fond du Lac, Jacob Kittelstad, CBS 58 News.